Good morning. Namaste. This is Dr. Makirvitil, Faculty of Agricultural and Veterinary Sciences, Jayoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. As you know, I'll be taking the course on metabolism and bioenergetics this semester. And in the previous session, we were looking into the process of glycogenolysis. So, as I had told you, glycogenolysis happens when the body is starved of sugar, like it doesn't have enough glucose in order to fuel the proper functioning of the brain. And if the body goes into an extremely hypoglycemic state, like the blood glucose levels falls, say, less than 40 or so, then the body can actually go into a comatose state because the brain cannot do its proper functioning. And in order to prevent that, glycogenolysis happens. So glycogen is the storage molecule for glucose in animals, and glycogenolysis happens in order to prevent the bodies going into an extreme hypoglycemic shock. So now we in this session we will be looking into the regulation of glycogenolysis, because glycogen is a storage molecule. So under what circumstances it needs to be used, and under what circumstances it needs to be produced and all are not used, because energy is available readily in other sources. So those are all the things that we will be looking into in this session. So if I were to give a recap of glycogenolysis. So the first step was that glycogen phosphorylase catalyzes the breakdown of glycogen into glucose 1-phosphate, and this happens at the non-reducing end of the glycogen residue. So like I had told you that there is one reducing end that will be at the core, and there are multiple non-reducing ends. So like one or two chains of like the if one chain with an alpha 1,6 linkage to the core chain is taken, then from there it will be removed in such a way that there are 4 glucose residues from the alpha 1,6 linkage, at least 4 residues away from the alpha 1,6 linkage only. This glycogen phosphorylase can remove glucose in the form of glucose 1,6-phosphate, and this does not use ATP. It uses HPO4 2-, and in that it will be like converted into glucose 1-phosphate and glycogen that has got one residue of glucose less. And then glycogen phosphorylase manages to use phosphate to catalyze glycogen breakdown. So this employs the coenzyme pyridoxal phosphate, PLP. So that is another important factor, like the cofactor for glycogen breakdown using glycogen phosphorylase is pyridoxal phosphate. So you know that that is a derivative of vitamin B, pyridoxine, and then this glycogen phosphorylase acts on the non-reducing ends of the glycogen chain that are at least 4 glucoses away from the branch point. So if I were to show you an image of that, so see here, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4. It will not act over here. And here also, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could act on this 5, but it mostly doesn't because of the steric hindrance that will happen. So this will be removed first, and then this will be removed next, and until this 4 will be removed. But it some total 6 will be removed because this molecule has got the steric hindrance from this side. The enzyme will not act on this this bond in order to remove this glucose residue. So what happens is glycogen phosphorylase will remove these 6 glucose molecules in this way, and then the transferase will remove these 3 glucose molecules and attach them at the non-reducing end, this end of the core chain, and then the alpha-1,6 glucosidase will hydrolyze this chain, this bond, and this one glucose as such, glucose residue as such will be released. That can also be used for glycolysis. So that is the sum total of glycolysis. Now, if we were to look into the regulation of glycolysis, what exactly happens in the regulation of glycogenolysis. So in the glycogenolysis, it is controlled by multiple mechanisms, and the focus of this control is the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase, because that is the first step. And I've told you, for every process there will be a committed enzyme, a committed step, and that is what is always the regulatory enzyme as well. So here the glycogen phosphorylase is regulated by 3 mechanisms. There is the allosteric regulation, like and then calcium ions can actually highly influence the activity of glycogen phosphorylase, and as well as the hormonal regulation. We will go into it one by one. So the regulation of glycogen phosphorylase also depends on the tissue in which it is found. So the regulation we will be discussing with regards to liver and muscle tissues, because muscle requires energy, and then liver maintains the glucose homeostasis of the organism as a whole. So like muscle requires energy for itself, because if we are like putting strain on the muscle, if we are expecting to lift something, then the muscle needs energy on its own. So muscle will have its own energy sources, like in the high energy phosphate compounds session, we had already discussed that muscle has its own stock of even creatinine phosphate, and that is a something that has got a very high level of activity in the muscle tissue. So muscle has got its own energy regulation mechanisms, and then liver maintains the glucose homeostasis for the whole body. So we will be looking at the regulation of glycogen phosphorylase in muscle and in liver. So if we were to look at the regulation of glycogen phosphorylase in the muscle tissue, so this exists in an active form, and that is called GPA, and there is the inactive form, the phosphorylase B, or the GPB. So GPA is phosphorylated and GPB is not, and that is the difference. So this is an enzyme that gets activated by the activity of a kinase. So I'm not sure whether you know the differences between a phosphorylase and a kinase. So a kinase is something that adds a phosphate molecule to another molecule, another any molecule. So it's if it's a molecule of an enzyme also, it will be phosphorylating it. Phosphorylation is done by a kinase, and the removal of a phosphate, the class of enzymes that phosphorylates something is known as kinase, and that removes a phosphate, only removes a phosphate without any hydrolysis involved, any hydrolysis or any removal of other molecules involved. They are known as phosphatases. So this phosphatases and kinases are the regulatory mechanisms for multiple enzymes in the system. And even over here, like the GPB, which is the inactive form, will be phosphorylated by phosphorylase kinase. And when once that happens, it becomes the active form GPA. GPA is the active form. Just note that A is active. So GPA is active and that contains 2 phosphates, whereas GPB is inactive and that contains only 1 phosphate. So if I were to show you the image for that, yeah. So this is what happens. There is a phosphorylase B, and this is in the relaxed state where the active site is glycogen cannot bind to the active site. Now, this activation of this glycogen phosphorylase is an ATP dependent process, like ATP to ADP is converted because most of the kinases are ATP dependent. So once it is removed, phosphorylated, then because there is a phosphate linked to it, so what happens is it gets into, from the relaxed state, it gets into the tense state that will have its active conformation, and so it can bind to the glycogen molecules and act on it. So that is how the phosphorylation, the enzyme mediated regulation of glycogen happens, glycogen phosphorylase happens. So in the muscle, when the cells are in a high energy state and ATP and glucose 6-phosphate are abundant, what happens is this will promote the GPB state, the inactive state, and otherwise when ATP or G6P is not available, glucose 6-phosphate is available, then cyclic AMP will be formed. And this AMP is then acts as a allosteric activator of the GPB, thereby converting it from GPB to GPA. Whereas GPA is not affected by AMP, ATP, or G6-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate, because it's found in the relaxed state. So once that happens, then the glycogen phosphorylase will be in an active form, because the AMP acts as a activator for the glycogen phosphorylase B form, and converts it by the use of phosphorylase kinase to the active A form. And once that happens, the active A form can then lyse the glycogen, the non-reducing ends of the glycogen molecules to release glucose 1-phosphate molecules. And then in the liver, actually, this glycogen phosphorylase is present as an isocyme of that one that is found in muscle. And the reaction is the same, but the difference over here in the liver is that GPA is allosterically inhibited by the accumulation of glucose. So over here, in muscle, there was only an allosteric activator in the form of AMP. Now, in liver, there is an allosteric inhibitor in the form of glucose. And that is the main difference between the A form, the active form of glycogen phosphorylase in muscle and liver. In muscle, actually, there is no inhibitor for the active form, where only an activator in the form of AMP for the inactive form. The inactive form will be activated by the presence of AMP. It will be phosphorylated and made into the active form in the presence of AMP. Whereas in liver, in the presence of excess glucose, the active form will be inhibited. So it will be in the T form when glucose binding happens. So that will be for the allosteric regulation. Now, if we were to look into the interconversion of GPA and GPB, as I was saying, it is done by phosphorylase kinase. So phosphorylase kinase is present in inactive and partly active form. So then it can be activated by phosphorylation by protein kinase A, which will activate phosphorylase kinase, or by binding with calcium. That is the second regulatory mechanism. So I had told you that calcium can regulate. The calcium levels are extremely important in the regulation of glycogen phosphorylase. So this is how the regulation by calcium occurs, as in like calcium can bind to phosphorylase kinase. That is the activator enzyme for glycogen phosphorylase. So this is a cascade that is happening when either protein kinase A activates phosphorylase kinase, or calcium binds to phosphorylase kinase and then it activates it. And once the phosphorylase kinase is activated, it will go and phosphorylate glycogen phosphorylase B. And then this GPB becomes the active form of GPA. And once it's in the active form, it can remove the glucose molecules from the non-reducing end of the glycogen. So calcium actually triggers muscular contraction as well, and that also activates the phosphorylase kinase. So the two regulation mechanisms, like I will tell you before, like we will do a recap on that before we go into the hormonal regulation of glycogenolysis. So first regulation for glycogen phosphorylase, it is the allosteric regulation. So glycogen phosphorylase exists in two forms, the glycogen phosphorylase A and the glycogen phosphorylase B. A is the active form, B is the inactive form. So the first is in the allosteric regulation, as in that the glycogen phosphorylase B, when there is AMP present, then it can be allosterically activated. Whereas glycogen phosphorylase A in the muscles do not have any allosteric activator or inhibitor. But in the liver, glycogen phosphorylase A can be inhibited by the presence of excess glucose. So that is the allosteric activation. Now, for the activation by phosphorylase kinase, because A to B activity happens in the form of when it is phosphorylated by phosphorylase kinase. So this phosphorylase kinase can be either regulated by protein kinase A, and then when protein kinase A phosphorylates phosphorylase kinase, then it can go and activate or convert GPB to GPA. Then another one, calcium ions, that is also very important in muscle contraction, that can also allosterically activate. It can bind to phosphorylase kinase and activate it, and thereby lead to the activation of glycogen phosphorylase and converting it from the B form to A form and from the tense form to the relaxed form. please remember the it's not the tense form, it's the relaxed form, which is the active form of the glycogen phosphorylase. So once we have the glycogen phosphorylase in the relaxed form, it can act on glycogen and remove the glucose 1-phosphate molecules from that by addition of inorganic phosphate. Now that is done, and then the third part is, so these are the calcium mediated regulation and the allosteric regulation of glycogen phosphorylase. Now the third part, the hormonal regulation, is very simple and very straightforward. Insulin that regulates the glucose level in the body. So when there is excess glucose, insulin will be active. And so once that is happening, so insulin can also inhibit the activity of glycogen phosphorylase, because when insulin is there is excess insulin, the body knows that body has got enough glucose present. So then why break down the glycogen and take away from the stores when we already have fresh supply? So glycogen phosphorylase is regulated and inhibited by the activity of glucose, whereas the other enzymes, glucagon and other stress-related enzymes, they will activate the glycogen phosphorylase. So epinephrine, glucagon, epinephrine acts on the muscle, glucagon works on the liver, and all these will turn on the glycogen breakdown. So the off signal is, and they are all G protein coupled signaling. So there'll be, because we'll have a lot of G protein coupled signaling that will be happening in the hormonal regulation of glycogenolysis. So as I was saying, epinephrine and glucagon can signal the need for glycogen breakdown, and excuse me, epinephrine works on muscles, glucagon works on liver. So that will be it for the glycogenolysis, the regulation of glycogenolysis. So that will be the end of the session. In the next session, we will be looking at glycogenesis, the synthesis of glycogen, and when and how that happens. Thank you. Have a good day.